You ever boot up the newest game in a franchise and immediately go,
What the hell is even that?
or maybe it's not even that dramatic. Maybe it's just a quiet, disappointed tone where you already know you're about to be annoyed for the next 10 hours. This keeps happening in games. Big franchises don't just evolve anymore. They panic. They chase whatever worked last year, whoever made the most money, whatever some executive saw trending on a whiteboard. And the end result is a game that technically functions, but has the personality of unsalted oatmeal. So today I'm talking about a handful of franchises that completely lost their identity. Not changed, not tried something new, lost it. Some of these series survived the damage. Some are barely recognizable, and some are Pokémon. So let's start with the franchise that went from precise historical murder simulator to press triangle to collect 40 bear asses. Assassin's Creed used to be very clear about what it was. You had small, dense cities, social stealth, blending into crowds, planning a hit, stabbing one guy really, really well, and then disappearing like a ghost. That was the fantasy. Then we hit Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, and Ubisoft... Okay, is it Ubisoft, Ubisoft? How do you guys pronounce this? I feel like I've been pronouncing it wrong for like 10, 15 years. And I feel like everybody has their own take on how you pronounce it, but I've never heard anybody official pronounce it, and I refuse to Google it, so. Anyways, Ubisoft fully caved to the open-world RPG arms race and said, well, what if Assassin's Creed was just everything? Now it's loot rarity, XP bars, skill trees, gear scores, dialogue choices, 120-hour maps, and stealth basically becomes an optional suggestion. And a lot of people noticed. There's been this long-running sentiment for years that these are decent RPGs, but they don't really feel like Assassin's Creed. Massive scale, sure, but the core fantasy got buried under checklists and systems. And Ubisoft clearly noticed too, because Mirage was marketed as a return to form, and even that flopped. Wait, did it? Did anybody actually play Mirage? But here's the important part, and this matters for the rest of the video. Losing your identity doesn't necessarily ruin you. I mean, look at Black Flag. Black Flag absolutely fucks. And a lot of the reason why is because it forgot that it was an Assassin's Creed game half the time. And it just kicked ass. Black Flag was basically a pirate sim that occasionally remembers you own a hood. But it works because it commits. It has a strong content identity of its own. You're not grinding because the UI told you to. You're doing it because you want a bigger, nastier ship with louder cannons and crews screaming sea shanties while you commit crimes on the open ocean. So yeah, Assassin's Creed lost itself, and it accidentally made one of the best pirate games ever, which is a lot luckier than what happened to the next franchise. Call of Duty, specifically Call of Duty Black Ops. And look, I'm not just here to jump on the Black Ops 7 hate bandwagon. I mean, I tried to jump on it, but it was fucking full. Black Ops started with a very clear tone. The first one was paranoia, brainwashing, number stations, and Cold War insanity. The second one kept things grounded enough while letting the story branch out in interesting ways. And then it just started escalating, aggressively. By Black Ops 3, we're in full cyberbrain nightmare territory, and the plot reads like it was written by 3 people who weren't allowed to talk to each other. Then Black Ops 4 came out with no campaign at all, which is insane considering the campaign was the one thing that people consistently defended in this series. Fast forward to Black Ops 7, and even the devs are publicly admitting that they're worried about burnout, which is corporate speak for, yeah, we might have cooked this for too long. Between the always online nonsense, the AI asset backlash, the years of neon crossover skins turning the game into a clown convention with guns, the series doesn't have a tone anymore. It's become an identity soup. The Campbells of first-person shooters.
I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. It's unhealthy. Now that I know what the in it, I can eat bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer.
It's everything all at once, no restraint, no cohesion, just weaponized branding. Halo's problem is simple. The people who understood Halo stopped making Halo. The Bungie era had a clear art style, iconic music, readable combat, and a mythic tone that didn't need to scream. 343 took over and immediately decided that Halo needed to be updated, which usually means glowing armor, lore dumps, quippy dialogue, and emotional arcs that feel like they wandered in from a different genre. Halo 5 makes you do homework to understand the plot. Infinite almost brings it back gameplay-wise, but then completely fumbles the live service side of things to the point where nobody knows what the plan even is anymore. Halo doesn't feel bad to play, it just feels confused, and that's almost worse. Saints Row used to know exactly what it was. It wasn't trying to be classy, it wasn't trying to be tasteful, and it sure as hell wasn't trying to be relatable. You beat people with adult entertainment items. You drove tanks through suburbs, you became the president, you fought aliens. You went to hell and kept cracking jokes the entire time. It understood the assignment. Go bigger, dumber, louder, and more offensive than GTA ever would. Then the 2022 reboot shows up, and you can feel the identity panic leaking through the screen. The tone changes completely. Instead of cartoonishly evil gangsters and absurd power fantasies, you get this weird group of relatable 20-something criminals who worry about student loans and talk like Twitter replies. And they feel like they wandered out of a Netflix young adult drama. I don't even mean woke in the usual brain-dead way, I mean focus grouped. Every joke feels sanitized, every character feels sanded down, every edge that used to define Saints Row is just gone. Reviewers straight up called it bland, not offensive, not daring, not shocking, just boring. Which is insane for Saints Row. The gameplay didn't help either. It was buggy, it was outdated mission designs, combat felt 10 years behind. It wasn't a bold new version, it was a reboot that was clearly terrified of being itself. Saints Row didn't lose its identity because it tried something new. It lost it because it was scared that someone might clutch at their pearls. Pokémon makes me legitimately angry. Not internet angry, but like personally angry. Because this isn't some struggling franchise that's trying to find its footing. This is a franchise that has a complete chokehold on its audience. Pokémon doesn't need to innovate to survive, and as a result, they choose not to. Scarlet and Violet launched in what can only generously be described as an unfinished state. Framerate collapsing, pop-in everywhere, empty environments, visuals that honestly looked worse than games released a decade earlier, and what the fuck happened? You people bought it anyways, which is the core problem. Yes, patches helped, yes, Pokémon Legends ZA runs better, yes, combat is more active, but almost every serious review keeps circling the same issues. The worlds look empty, cities look artificial, NPCs barely exist as characters, exploration feels flat instead of magical. Pokémon used to be a journey, routes had personality, towns had identity, music stuck with you. Now everything feels like a prototype with a Pokémon skin stitched over it. And Nintendo knows that this series doesn't have to try. They ship and then patch just enough to avoid lawsuits and let nostalgia do the rest. That's not evolution, it's stagnation with a billion-dollar safety net. Pokémon didn't lose its identity overnight, it atrophied, and every new release makes it harder to argue that they actually care about reclaiming it. So if you're out there still buying new Pokémon games,
Then please call 1-800-I-am-a-giant-piece-of-shit, because you are the problem.
Silent Hill is different from other franchises on this list. People don't just like Silent Hill, they attach themselves to it. The original Team Silent games weren't scary because of jump scares or gore or monster designs that you could slap on a lunchbox. They were scary because they understood restraint. They trusted silence. They trusted symbolism. Most importantly, they trusted the player to sit with discomfort without spelling everything out. The monsters meant something. The environments reflected internal states. The stories didn't explain themselves because they didn't need to. And once Team Silent was gone, that understanding left with them. Post Silent Hill 4, you can feel the franchise start to reach. The fog is still there, the trauma's still there, but things start getting louder, clumsier, more literal. Combat becomes more of a focus, and symbolism starts being shown instead of felt. Games like Homecoming and Downpour aren't unplayable disasters, but even people who defend them usually say the same thing. They don't really feel like Silent Hill. And that feeling never really went away, which brings us to Silent Hill F. Critics loved it. A lot of people loved it. I didn't. I'm not saying it's incompetent, I'm saying it feels like an entirely different genre wearing Silent Hill's face. F is stylish, it's confident, it has very clear themes and very clear things it wants to say, and that's kind of the problem. Silent Hill was never really about clarity. It whispered, it implied, it let things rot quietly in the background. F wants you to notice it. It wants to be interpreted, it wants to be discussed. Even a lot of the positive reviews admit that combat is awkward and the design is divisive, because the game is pulling in two different directions at once. It wants to be a prestige social horror experiment, and it wants to be a Silent Hill, and those two goals don't naturally align. It feels like Silent Hill in branding only. The name stayed, the fog stayed, the monsters stayed, but the understanding of why any of that matters keeps getting thinner. And by the way, I've got a whole other video talking specifically about Silent Hill F and how much I hated it. So if you're sitting here thinking, man, this guy seems to have beef with Silent Hill F, you're right, I do. Go watch the video, I promise I don't calm down. But zooming out, this is the core tragedy of Silent Hill after Team Silent left. The series didn't lose its identity all at once. It chipped away at it piece by piece until all that was left was familiar imagery and a very loud sense that something important was missing. And when you're dealing with a franchise that people love this deeply, that loss hurts way more than any technical failure ever could. Alright, that's 6 franchises that wandered so far off the path they're basically in a different tax bracket now. Some of them drifted because they were trying to evolve, some because they were chasing trends, and some because the people steering the ship clearly had no damn map. But the point is, when a series forgets what makes it special, you can feel it. Whether it's Assassin's Creed turning into a part-time RPG, Saints Row sanding off all of its edge, or Pokémon dropping another flashy entry that still somehow feels hollow. You can tell when the identity's been swapped out for marketing bullet points. Anyway, tell me which franchises you think completely lost their identity, or which ones you want me to drag next time, because trust me, I've got a list. Thanks for watching, okay, bye.